good to see everybody. The holidays are fast approaching. And with that, it's always my annual reminder that New Year's is just around the corner, because whether it's MMA or martial arts or any kind of fitness club, stuff starts to explode in the New Year's. We get a big influx of new students. And whether it's driven by the calendar or ritual or whatever, it is a time of year where people are willing to start something like new and fresh. And I thought this year, before we hit that milestone of 2025, I thought I would go over with people what it's like to start training at a good MMA gym. What are some things to look for? What can you expect? Basically, I want to cover 3 or 4 categories here. So what is class like? What are some reasons to train? I want to talk about what you can expect and kind of manage any apprehension. See Corgi in the corner. Manage any apprehension or nerves you might have as you anticipate coming to class for the first time. A lot of people come to us with experience, but the lion's share, like 90% of people, they haven't trained martial arts or boxing or anything before. And so you're in good company when you come in that we know how to handle beginners and take them all the way through intermediate and then advanced. And then what are some reasons to train? You probably have a couple on your mind right now if you're looking at MMA channels out here on the YouTube. But it's just the typical reasons I see for training after coaching. I've been coaching since 2001. So after these 20 plus years, just the common goals I've seen in people and myself, right? And then the last thing I want to finish with is what's my favorite type of student, because I think it'll actually surprise you a little bit. So what to expect when you come to class? Number one, it should be safe. If you have any concerns that the training facility you're in is not going to be a safe environment, if you've never been there before, if you've looked them up online, but it's kind of nebulous what you could find out about the place, try to watch classes, because that's going to give you a real indicator of the vibe around the place. Are people taping up their fingers because their hands are injured? Do they have a lot of cauliflower ear, which I have none? I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 20 years as well. Are they injured on other types of their body? And maybe even does an injury happen in class? Does class look very rough to you? Because I'll tell you this, there's a big misconception, and it kind of goes along with our TikTok culture, this internet culture that, we're engaged in right now, is that there's sort of the imagery of a martial artist, or, do you look like an MMA guy? And it's almost like that's all they need to do is have this sort of appearance, have the spectacle of it, and then that somehow lends itself to authenticity. It does not. The best MMA gyms that I've ever trained at, actually martial arts schools in general, boxing gyms, the most professional, highest grade ones you can imagine, have been welcoming and safe. And it's because when you have a high degree of skill and the curriculum is organized, there's progressions and there's material to back it up, nobody should feel like they have to show off to you as the beginner. Nobody should look at you as like, oh, there's fresh meat coming in the door. I got to prove myself. Why would I have to prove myself to a beginner? It should be very obvious where the skill set lies. So no one should try to beat you up. No one should berate you, belittle you. It should just be very, very friendly, very welcoming. It should be literally a school approach. It should be something that walks you through training and those processes step by step, with the realization that the overwhelming majority of you are going to have to go back to work tomorrow. You're going to go back to school. You're not a professional fighter who can take time off because you got hurt yesterday. And in fact, a professional fighter doesn't want to do that either. Getting hurt any time throughout the year with like a major injury to, like, say, a joint or something, that can put you out of commission for 3 to 6 months, and then your whole calendar is thrown off. So if we are going to do something like sparring, it has to be with this intensity that it can be done every day. Now, if I have somebody getting ready for a fight, which is a rare exception, like a heavy fight schedule for somebody, like let's say an amateur even, would be 3 to 5 matches a year. So that means outside of those times, we got to stay safe so that we can continue looking forward to competition. Now, jiu-jitsu, you could compete, more than once a month if you wanted to. Why? Because it's Generally, it's totally safe. You tap out, nobody gets really banged up or hurt. There's no striking. So you can compete with greater frequency because of the safety factor involved. But most people, like out of a gym of 200 people, maybe 20 of them, I would say a little bit less than 10%, are going to be like frequent competitors. Most people are going to be there for other reasons, which I'll get into in a minute. But what is class like? So every gym I've been to, most of them follow kind of the same format. And there's a warm-up, an active stretching portion. That's something that the coaches are going to lead you through. So just some kind of technical training warm-up could involve shadow boxing, jumping rope. It could be a number of activities. And nowadays, we've got older people training. So I've got people that are aged teenager, like 13, all the way up to like 65. So the warm-up the 13 to 20-year-old is going to do might be slightly different, maybe different pace than the 60-year-old. And that's totally normal. This is the start of tailor making everything for you, because that's who class is geared for. It's not that you have to conform to what everybody's doing in the room. It's how can you get individual results while working out with a team of people that support you, right? And so although we have teammates, we're going to sort of individualize everything that we do. Okay, but after the warm-up, then we're going to work on either something to keep the warm-up going or move into technical training. So if we were talking jiu-jitsu, we might start doing takedowns. And here again, so like the 20-year-olds who want it, they might pick each other up and like crash on the mats and have a good time with that. But if I got a couple, even my age, like 45, 55-year-olds in the corner, we might just work to the off balancing. So we go for the takedown. In judo, the term is koizushi, which just means to off balance or play with the balance. We might disrupt that person's balance, feel their body weight to where we could pick them up, and then we just don't go to the floor because we're kind of avoiding the impact. So there's a lot of ways to train the same thing, but always warm up and then furthering that into what we call a technical portion. So a lot of that, like in my takedown example, is going to be partner work. So if you move into the boxing gym, or in our case, our other classroom where we're doing boxing or Muay Thai, you're going to work combinations with the partner. You're going to work offense and defense. In the jiu-jitsu mat, you might learn how to do an arm bar, but it's going to be collaborative. That's the technical part of it. So like you and your partner are going to figure out how to sort out throwing a jab. What's the offense position like? What's my body posture? What's my guard? What's my footwork? And then the person on the other side is going to work defense. How do I block that? What's my corresponding movement, et cetera, et cetera. And then you'll switch roles and it'll go back and forth. And that's sort of the beauty of MMA that accelerates your learning, is the value in the partner. The partner is your teammate, and they're going to make all the difference in the world. Because if you have a partner who comes in the same day as you, neither of you have experience, you're going to make progress. It's going to be steady, but you're going to kind of plod along. But if you come in, and our job is to pair you up with somebody who's got 5, 10, 15 years experience, they're going to help put you on a fast track. And the goal is to accelerate your training, where instead of taking 10 years to get somewhere, hopefully we can kind of shave that down, your progress, into like 2 to 4 years. But regardless, just from the moment you work with that qualified partner, they're going to accelerate what you're doing. And people always kind of get nervous, or I hear this frequently, that like, oh, I'm holding this person back. I don't want to come to class and be the beginner and drag them down. That's not how it works either. I learn stuff all the time when I'm working with beginners, whether it's the questions they ask, or it might actually be their movement. You know, a trained fighter is going to react in a certain way, and a newer person might come up with something way more creative that's not within that typical structure, and it kind of creates a problem to solve. But I could work out with a 10-year-old, and I could get just as good a workout as I could with somebody who's 25 and been training for 4 years or something like that. And so the progress is mutual. And that's what I'm trying to get across here. So as far as class expectations, let's keep moving. So after technical training, we'll usually do something that involves conditioning. So in the Muay Thai portion, or boxing, any kind of striking, that usually means heavy bag work or focus mitts, which are called like coach's mitts. I'm sure if you've seen like Mayweather or another boxer like warming up on the internet, you've seen those. They're kind of like handheld targets, and they basically allow you to be a moving heavy bag. And most modern boxing gyms, what we'll do is we'll rotate. You do 3 minutes, and then I do 3 minutes, and we switch the gear. And it creates sort of a high intensity interval training. It's anaerobic because the way your heart rate's going to work during boxing, and then the forced rest that you have to take on the other side. So it's really great for getting fitness results. But it also gives us high repetition so that we can move through a lot of combinations back and forth and really amp up the conditioning. And then in jiu-jitsu, it would be like specific training. So you did all this collaborative work, right? Like we showed each other how to do the arm bar. You let me do the arm bar with no resistance. Now, okay, we're going to take that same position. I'm going to try to do the arm bar, but you're going to try to stop me a little bit. So it's a pressure testing environment. And it's the same thing in the kickboxing. We're pressure testing how well you can keep the guard, the structure, fire those combinations off. And then eventually the mid holder, your partner, they're going to start to jab back at you, take some swings, work on your defense, get you to cover. And so, again, there's just this reciprocation that goes back to having a partner, because there's no other sport. Sports where you have teammates, but it's like you have this built-in collaborator that's there to help you reach their goals, and you're there for them. It's kind of like if you've ever spoken to veterans in our community, they'll describe being in combat and that person shoulder to shoulder with them, he or she is just this rock that they rely on, that they can't imagine not sacrificing themselves for, or they for them in turn. And that is a real sense of team, that you're moving forward together and that you can really count on this person and they can count on you. And that, I think, just different than any other activity for the most part. If you've been on a sports team, you probably experienced that too, where you're just really rallied behind each other. And it's something you don't get at 24-hour fitness. You certainly don't get it at home, working out on your own. The partnerships that we build are really the invaluable part of training. And then at the end of class, we'll do some sparring. And so sparring within class is super light. Like, everybody should be able to do it. We always make it optional because I'll get to this in a minute, but I understand there's different reasons for training. I would say about 100% of people will jump into sparring. It's very rare that somebody will be like, "Coach, not today." And that's usually because they're a little older, again, like me, and they tweak their hip or something jogging and they don't want to step on the sparring floor. Sparring doesn't mean a full contact fight. It shouldn't even really be 50% intensity unless you're in a training camp getting ready for a fight. It should be something that you can do every day. So when we're doing stand-up sparring, what we need to create is just at first a light touch, and that's what we call timing sparring. So it has to make contact, but it's just like this soft, no closed fist. Sometimes we talk about like holding teacups. I got that from one of my coaches, Arjan Greg Nelson, who's a phenomenal MMA coach and a Muay Thai guy out there in the world. And you just need to have that contact because, again, it's called timing sparring. Our goal is to figure out, how do we time an opponent? How do I deliver combinations? How do I time and coordinate my defense, my footwork, all those things working together. And then the next level of intensity, which is always going to be discussed with a partner, right? So everybody does timing sparring. That's kind of a given. It's very safe. Like I said, you do it every day. And then the next step of intensity would be to hit somebody just hard enough that you move their balance. Because what that does is going to teach you about counterpunching. So if I'm throwing a hook and you're able to land with enough force to move me back, the hook won't reach you, right? It will go by you, or it will stifle or whatever. Honestly, it doesn't hurt at all, but it's something you need to get acclimated to. And that goes back to the first process I talked about. Everything is going to be organized and safe, and it's going to be step by step if you're in a good MMA gym. If you're not, I've been there. Probably over my life, I've probably traveled to, let's just say, 100 different martial arts gyms, doing camps, seminars, and cross-training. And sometimes I've been a known quantity. They know who I am, and a lot of times they don't, and it's fun. I get to mix it up. And, as I get older, I got to be just a little bit safer now on who I work with and who I just jump in and spar without knowing anything about them. And there are some gyms that will put people through the meat grinder. And again, I think it comes from an insecurity. If somebody has to show off to you to prove that they have some kind of skill, let alone hurt you, I think it's a big red flag that they don't know what they're doing, especially if it's on day one. Like, come on. So yeah, the best boxing gyms I've been at, it's always been pretty safe. And even doing full contact sparring when I was a little bit younger, people will check in with you. You know, if you both agree, yeah, let's today we're going to test this one out. We're really going to go for it. You know, you land a good shot and you're like, oh, hey, are you okay? You want to keep going? You all right? You good? Okay, good. We'll go back to it. And they'll do the same for you, because it's not a fight. It's almost academic. It is a school. You're there to learn and grow, not just beat somebody up. And those are always the best signs to look for in any MMA gym. But we're going to do timing sparring in class, and then all the other sparring where it's a varied intensity, where we're putting in mouth guards, maybe we're throwing on headgear, we're putting on shin guards, we're going to do stand up to ground takedowns in BJJ, and I'm going to try to slam you. Those are all optional, and they're agreed upon intensity that you discuss with your partner. So no one's going to have you walk in the first day and like try to take it to you. You choose how you want to participate. And that leads us to the next category I mentioned, which are reasons that people train, and to sort of, I want to remove any sense of like apprehension you have about coming in. But everybody's got different reasons to train. You know, some people want to get fit. Some people want to learn self-defense. Some people just are there because they're interested in gaining confidence through a skill. And some people want to compete. And some people are there just for the socialization of it. And honestly, that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the greatest benefits we have. And think about other intramural activities that you might do, you know, whether it's surfing, or you play pickup basketball, or you're in a pickleball league, or whatever it is. Chances are you like that activity, but you're also there because you're forming relationships on the basketball court every week. These are people you know, like, and trust, that you form bonds with. And for myself, I've been fortunate enough to make lifelong friends doing this, people I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. And I think you just have to accept that how you participate in the activity is totally your call. You know, sometimes we think, like I said earlier about TikTok and the image of society and the internet, we're kind of bombarded by what is the highest level of this thing. And, you know, if you don't have this certain look and you don't do it a certain way, you're not really doing it. And I cry bunk to that. You know, if you want to come into the martial arts gym and just be there to be a social butterfly, like, it's your call. It's how you're choosing to participate in it, and how you're choosing to enjoy that activity and glean rewards from it. And the same is true if you're there for fitness or competition or whatever. You're choosing how you participate in it because you want to dictate the results that you get. And it's interesting too, as far as like getting in shape as well. You know, people come in to get fit, and a lot of times they're doing something else. You know, they're doing like running or what we call road work in the boxing gym. They might be lifting weights, and we have a little weight room there as well. But you can see a shift in people because they'll, you know, again, back to imagery, you know, I want to get in shape like the cover of Men's Health magazine or Vogue, or I saw this influencer online. But what happens, another key benefit to training in martial arts, is that it gives you a strong sense of self-confidence, which I'm sure you've all heard. But along with that confidence comes a sense of self-acceptance. You know, you're so confident in your skill set that it bleeds into other areas of your life. And it kind of starts to shift your priorities a little bit, and I think in a good way. And so what it does is it makes you very comfortable in your own skin, to where you're like, oh, I don't need to look like that poster over there. I just need to look like me. And then you become happy with who you are. And so whatever your reasons are for getting involved in training, they're perfectly acceptable. And then your reasons might shift over time. You know, a lot of times people come in, I want self-defense. And, you know, whether they compete or not, just doing the training, they're going to class every day, they see themselves sparring, they start to get really good results. All of a sudden, they're like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and nobody can really give them a hard time anymore. So all of a sudden, your evaluation of your goals starts to change. It's like, whoa, I came in here for self-defense. Now I've got that. And then it becomes like, well, now what? And the cool thing about martial arts is there's always something more to do. There's always something you can shift your energy or your focus on. It could be coaching, or like, hey, I'm going to do the fitness part now, or I am here to socialize. I've made a lot of friends along the way. I'm a purple belt. I've been here for about six years. So man, I've made some really cool friends. I'm going to keep going because I like to see these people, but sometimes those goals will change. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is twofold. I want to talk about my favorite kind of student, and I want to just tell you one thing, and that is, do not underestimate yourself. That is probably the other number one thing that I encounter in people's apprehension, is that they think I have to be fit before I come in, or I need some level of talent. I'm not very coordinated, so I'm not going to be able to do martial arts. And I think because safety is a concern that we've already covered, I think that's a big part of it, that there's a little barrier there that maybe isn't, it is, but not to a degree, right? If you're like, I'm going to start a new activity, I'm going to go play tennis. Well, all right, I'm going to pick up a racket, I'm going to go to the court down here and grab some buddies and do it. I think because of the perceived interactions in martial arts and MMA, you're like, well, somebody could hit me in the face and I'm not any good or whatever. But don't sell yourself short. You might not think so, but you're probably my favorite kind of student. And that is just the person who is coachable, the person who is willing to learn, who's got a little bit more going on upstairs. Talent is great, but I got this from a guy who was actually a marketing guy. He was in the martial arts field. His name's Nick Daughtry. And he would say, hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. And I don't really like the catchphrase that much, but it's true. You can have all the talent in the world, but sometimes the person who's talented, they already have this sense of coordination from other sports. Maybe they've got some kind of physicality. They pick things up pretty quick. What happens with most people that are talented, you could be a talented person and break through this too. And if you're that talented where you can really examine yourself, then sky's the limit. They'll hit a wall. They hit a wall where the talent doesn't overcome the deficit that they have from not knowing the skill, right? Like, you can be as talented as you want, but if I was like, let's go perform brain surgery, you have to have some kind of education behind that in order to do the task. And the teachable, coachable person who's, you kind of show up and you're like, well, I don't know, I'll give it a try, I'm here. Those are the people, honestly, they become like the A-list students, the A-list athletes. They become the rock stars. And honestly, they, in shorter time than you think, they will surpass sometimes the talented person because of their drive, because of their willingness to learn, their willingness to problem solve, because like you and me, you have faced challenges in your life before. So when you're like, oh, hey, I got to learn this. It's a little puzzle to solve. Like, how do I throw a jab? Oh, I got to keep my chin down. And you're like, oh, what were those tips again, coach? And you start to integrate them in. And that's when the curriculum really shines through, because it's the individual, but it's also the organization of having a curriculum, where you don't feel like you come in every day and we're doing random disjointed things off the top of our head. No, there's a plan for you step by step, and this is how you get better. And you'll just be amazed. If you pick this up in the new year or tomorrow, give me a call. You'll be amazed at the progress that you make in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, in 4 years. You'll just be charting like milestone after milestone, and it will do something good for you. Well, all right, guys, that's it. Just something I wanted to cover today on what it's like to get started at a quality MMA gym. New Year's is right around the corner. If you're lucky enough to live in the Pacific Northwest, just look up River City Warriors. Same name, same channel on Google Maps. Come on by. We'd love to have you. We always let everybody try it out for free. And if you're watching this channel, again, please like and subscribe. And if you're somewhere else in the nation, I've had a lot of students move abroad. I can't say that I've cross-trained in all the 50 states, but I've done a lot. And there's a lot of people that I've mingled with. MMA is a pretty It's a pretty small circle of community when you get right down to it still. So if you're in another state and you're looking at a jiu-jitsu gym or Jeet Kune Do or Muay Thai and boxing and you want some input, feel free to shoot me a link in the comments and we'll try to direct you. I've helped a lot of students move over the years and find quality places. But if you're in Portland, Oregon or the surrounding area, we'd love to have you. All right, Warriors, catch you later.